It is finally time to start up our Kansas City Royals franchise here in MLB The Show 18. The OSFM rosters dropped last night. Also a couple correction rosters. We are using the OSFM version 1.3. It's good enough for us to start with. I don't care if there's a couple missing prospects on a couple different teams. My team is fine, and I don't care if your favorite team's number 27 prospect is underrated. These rosters are good enough for me. It's what we're rolling with. I made my own changes to a bit of them, and we are going to be rocking with the OSFM version 1.3. If you guys are not aware of what OSFM are, they are the Operation Sports Full Minors roster. That's what OSFM stands for. Group of people over at Operation Sports work on these rosters. They put them out usually a couple weeks. This year they got it a bit earlier after the release, and they include all the full minor league players rather than having the minor leagues of each team filled with fake players. If you guys don't know how to download this, it's pretty simple. You just go to the roster vault in the game, look for the ones that's titled OSFM. They're made by a guy named Riding with Kingsley, I believe is his name. That's how you download the rosters. Another thing I did with the roster was I added all of the MLB players who were currently injured in real life back to their respective team's 40-man roster, because what OSFM does is they send down all of the injured players in real life to A-ball, and they remove them from the 40-man roster, even if their injury only keeps them out for like 2-3 weeks in real life. What this does is it makes it so the rosters are realistic to opening day, but unfortunately the AI in franchise mode does not recognize that. So they just keep them down in A-ball all year long, and they just sit down there all year rotting, even if the injury, like I said, only keeps them out for 2-3 weeks in real life. So I will not be pretending that players who are injured in real life are injured in this franchise. Think of this franchise as a different reality or a different timeline than in real life. So as far as the Kansas City Royals and how they got to where they are in the year 2018, obviously we know the Royals were a great team in the 70s and the 80s. They won the World Series in 1985, and then they proceeded to not make the playoffs again until 2014. So the 90s and the 2000s were just filled with bad teams in Kansas City. Obviously, they had the great run from 2014 to 2016, where they won the World Series in 2015, but eventually it just came down to the Royals being a small market team. They can't afford all their players. They have guys like Chris Young, who they couldn't rely on forever. Just even players who were like not superstars ended up leaving to go to other teams to make big money, because the Royals just couldn't pay them what they wanted, or they were just trying to cash out. Whatever the reason may be, their core is gone. Guys like Wade Davis are gone, Greg Holland's gone, Eric Hosmer's gone, Lorenzo Cain is gone. Obviously, Yordano Ventura unfortunately died in the Dominican Republic last offseason. Just a bunch of things happened to this Royals team, so they're no longer quite what they used to be, and their core is pretty much gone, and they just kind of have fragments of that team still around. So we obviously all know that the Kansas City Royals play a version of small ball under Ned Yost. He's a big old-school manager. He likes to bunt a lot. He doesn't exactly have the smartest lineups in a modern-day era of baseball. My plan with the Royals is to get out with that old-school mentality, out with that small ball, out with the way the Royals sign players or draft players. We are going in with a modern-day sabermetrics-minded mentality. Not even super advanced methods here that if you guys aren't huge sabermetrics guys, you aren't going to understand. It's just stuff like the lineup is not fastest guy leading off, no matter what his OBP is, followed by a guy who can bunt or get a runner over, followed by a 2-3 big bats, followed by just a bunch of scrubs. And the standard for starting pitchers is not to go 8 innings or 9 innings, it's 5 to 6, that's the standard. The emphasis is going to be on building a strong bullpen with at least 1 or 2 guys that in the mold of like a Chris Davinsky or a Chad Green type, guys that can go in there for multiple innings with filthy stuff, who are essentially just starters in the bullpen. And now this 2018 Royals team does still have a little bit of talent. They've got guys like Danny Duffy in the rotation. They've got guys like Kelvin Herrera still in the bullpen. Mike Moustakas is here. Salvador Perez. Lucas DUDA came over in the offseason. Jorge Soler's a decent bat. Whit Merrifield. Alex Gordon. These guys are all still here, and they still have a bit of talent, so they could possibly compete for a second wildcard spot in their first season in this franchise, but the preferred plan of action to head into the deadline for me would be to trade all of the value at the deadline. Guys who are only with 1 year, even 2 years left in their deal, just get rid of them. Get rid of all the guys who are not here for a long time, who we don't have to be, who are not in our long-term plans here in Kansas City. So basically what I'm saying is the Season 2 Royals roster is probably going to be completely different than the current Season 1 roster, because the Royals don't have many prospects, and the ones they do have aren't exactly guys who are going to be studs, and then the Royals do not really have anybody right now who's going to be like a game-changing type player. So we kind of have to do a lot of shifting and rebuilding and just retooling the whole system. And now moving on to the last but not least part of this episode, and that is taking a look at our rotation, bullpen, and lineups. The rotation 1 to 5 goes Danny Duffy, Jason Hamill, Jake Junis, Nate Carnes, and Ian Kennedy. In the bullpen, we actually have one extra pen, and we've only got 3 guys on the bench. It's a new style of thing, and also I just think that with our bullpen, how bad it is, we could use an extra arm in there. Brad Keller, Brian Flynn, Blaine Boyer, Tim Hill, Birch Smith, Brandon Maurer, Justin Grimm, and then Kelvin Herrera. And as far as the lineups go, they're a bit different depending on if we face a right-hander or a left-handed pitcher. Against right-handed pitchers, it's leading off in center field is John Jay, followed by third baseman Mike Moustakas, catching Salvador Perez, first base Lucas Duda, right field Jorge Soler, second base Whit Merrifield, left field Alex Gordon, DH Chesler Cuthbert, and then shortstop is Alcides Escobar. And then against lefties, it's leading off second base Whit Merrifield, third base Mike Moustakas, catcher Salvador Perez, first base Lucas Duda, right field Jorge Soler, center field is Paulo Orlando. We've got a little bit of a platoon going on there. DH Chesler Cuthbert, left field Alex Gordon, and shortstop Alcides Escobar rounds things out. So with that being said, that's pretty much going to wrap things up here for episode 1. It is just a non-gameplay episode, getting the series kicked off here, showing what we've got in our system, the plans for the series. And episode 2 will be opening day against the Chicago White Sox. Danny Duffy on the mound for us, Miguel Gonzalez on the mound for them. I've been your host, Jerseyborn, and I'm saying goodbye.